Hi, welcome. It's Elaine Mingus with another Resellers podcast. I am CurbVulture. I'm located in the Austin, Texas area. And today I have with me vintage boss babe, Sammy Davis, not the musician, but she is located in New York and she has so much wisdom to share for us. So I'm going to introduce her and let her share where she can be found on social media and just a little bit about herself.
My name is Sammy Davis, and I'm like a New Yorker for a long time, but I just moved to Baltimore. So now I'm splitting my time between both. I'm actually in New York right now. You can find me on social media, Vintage Boss Babes. My website is vintagebossbabes.com. And we'll talk about this later on in this interview, but you can also find my Facebook groups by going on Facebook and searching for Vintage Boss Babes and Vintage Jewelry Addicts.
So tell me, Sammy, I've been following you for a couple of years now. I've watched your transition
Thank you so much.
from being in New York. Have actually gone up to New York and
that's right.
Did one
we
of
almost met.
We were trying to do one of your tours, me and my daughter up in New York, and did our own thrifting there, but really would have loved it because I've seen your tours and they get excellent reviews on Airbnb experiences. So tell me a little bit about how you fell into this. Did you just start when you came in New York?
I think I fell into it because I wanted money and I wanted passion, so it was definitely like a combination of both. However, I moved to New York City when I was 22. I'm 38 and was like full throttle, wanted to be a magazine fashion editor. So print was still a thing. I mean, print is still a thing, but it was even more
That's
so.
Every single TV show with publications. Yes. I'm watching Ugly Betty right now. So I'm like,
love it. Yeah. 13 going on 30. Like all of it, you know what I mean? And it really portrays a different side of what that industry is. Not that the industry isn't so important and fulfilling and makes great impact, but I was hired during the recession, which was a miracle. And so I'm sitting on like the 17th floor or something of the Hearst Tower. Hearst is a big publishing company. I was working for Esquire magazine, which is a men's magazine. And I was sitting there and I just, in my soul, like I just didn't feel right because I knew that if I stayed on this path, I was going to be in an office all the time. But the beauty of it is I did get my chops with digital publishing because in 2008, this is the dark ages. I like to remind people that there was nothing. And magazines back then were like, no, we are not publishing our content online for free. No way. So there was a big battle about that. But I learned a lot. And so what ended up happening is I started a blog and it was a WordPress site and I named it sammydvintage.com. And then I discovered the flea markets of New York. And I thought, wow, I can do this in the weekend. I can just sell fashion. I'd always been a thrifter. I'd always loved vintage. I wore like vintage dresses to both of my proms in high school. And being in New York, it's such a supportive environment for being creative. So I was really able to just spread my wings and fly. I set up with something called Artists and Fleas, which now owns the Manhattan Vintage Show. They have an outpost in LA. It's like a huge conglomerate, but they were like itty bitty starting up back then. And I would sell on the weekends. I would leave my stuff there during the week because they let you do that. It was indoors. And then I would go on the weekends and I really enjoyed it. I really loved in-person selling. And actually just to fast forward to today, I've returned to markets. I really have a deep passion for markets. And what ended up happening is being 23 and just a little like ignorant. I don't know. That's such a negative word, but just like, I guess the phrase is hopeful. Ignorance is bliss, hopeful. I was like, I can do this full time. I can do this full time. So I quit. But at that time, there was a lot of talk about building online community. So internet marketing had been a thing, but it was about to explode. And I became a self-taught, quote unquote, internet marketer. So I launched a YouTube channel, continued to build the website. I actually had someone helping me at the time and just really took it to the next level where there's still people today that are like, I remember your blog. And it was because the SEO was so strong. Like you would type in 1970s vintage and like my site would come up, and it wasn't a very competitive environment, honestly. Like this is 15 years ago, like there weren't many people doing it. Fast forward to today, it's a little bit different. And obviously we have Instagram and so many YouTube channels. I remember on YouTube when you could only upload 5-minute videos. Like this is like, it just was a lot different. And I wanted to stay in New York. And I did a lot of different things in the vintage field just to like continue to make money. I ran a store. I used to do like alcohol tastings like on the side just to make money. But really what ended up happening is I was like, I'm kind of exhausted. I don't think I had like the long-term vision that I would today at that age. And I just didn't think I could make it work for me for like the long term. And I also got distracted by like relationships because you fall in love and then that becomes your like thing. Like that becomes your number one priority. I took a big break. Like a big break. If you were to find me on social in 2015, 16, I wasn't saying anything about vintage, nothing about thrifting. Like it just wasn't a thing. And I had a good relationship, but it didn't end up working out. I moved back to New York City. I was in New Jersey temporarily. And I was like, you know what? How old was I? 31. I was like, I'm 31. Let's do this thing again. And I relaunched my YouTube channel. And by this time, and I feel like, I'm so sorry, guys, I'm putting all these like years on it, but it really means something as it relates to the growth of technology. So that would have been 2018. I'm 31. Facebook groups had exploded. And I was like, I'm going to start a Facebook group called Thrift Babes. And then, guys, I had always been an Airbnb host. So I was very familiar with Airbnb. Airbnb had helped me to get by in New York. I started renting out one of my spare rooms. When I moved in with this boyfriend, I rented out the whole apartment. And I was making like really good money at that time doing that. So when Airbnb launched something called Experiences, at that time, being single and free and able to make many decisions, I was like, I'm going to do a thrift tour. I'm just going to try this thing. So it was a combination of like choosing again to do what made me happy and to have belief that it was going to support me in some way, like having this faith, which is basically vision in unknown because you don't know what's going to happen. So ever since then, I've been on a growth trajectory of how can I serve people through secondhand fashion? How can I help sell more secondhand fashion? How can I empower women to help sustain themselves through the power of resale? And I'm waking up every day and I'm like, let's go. And I will honestly say that I am blessed to feel that way. I have had many financial up and downs because living in New York City, it's like a 25% to 30% uptick on everything.
And you've been really honest on Instagram
Yeah.
about having
not
to,
having
and I
money.
try to do the same thing. I'm the same way, like heart on my sleeve. Like this is not an end all be all. Like I'm going to tell you about my course about reselling and picking up stuff on the side of the road. But there are months that just are bleak, for us, for furniture. It's November, December. No one's buying stuff during the holidays. Maybe yours upticks during Q4 because it's there's jewelry or fashion. But
right.
I love that you've been so honest on social media about some of your struggles. And I want to kind of hit something that you said there, because I think it's really important to note, and maybe you can speak on this. You talked about being single and free. And I've honestly, as I've watched so many vintage resellers, they're in their 30s or their 20s, and then all of a sudden they're married and they're having babies. I'm watching their journey because I never had a time in my adult life, really, because I was 22 when I got married and we immediately started having kids. So I'm always like that place where it's like, okay, how is it so much easier to do it without kids, to do it without a husband? And there is a little bit of a freedom that you experience with, just being like making all your own decisions, only having to support one. So can we talk about the transition? Because you're with someone and now having to make decisions about moving out of New York.
That is such a great point. So I would say that the wrong relationship is going to hold you back. When you're emotionally drained, when you're in your head, when you are trying to make someone happier than you, especially so that they're not upset or like there's no like emotional turbulence. And I experienced that with 2 long-term relationships. It destroyed me, but it also woke me up to the power of the right relationship and what that looks like. And I think, Elaine, you are in the right relationship with someone who totally supports all of you. And of course, there's sacrifice because, yes, you can't be full on your business when you have 8 other individuals to take care of. But I just think with the right relationship, things fall into place. And I think the most important thing for both men and women is to realize that the wrong relationship will distract you. And that self-love is really choosing that it's not the right relationship and choosing to have that relationship with yourself, which is cultivating those passions and interests, and the self-love to fall down and make mistakes in that space versus just not even try and just be focused on the false comfort of that relationship.
You want someone
Yeah.
who's going to pick you up, not kick you when you're down. And one of the things that I've learned recently, like when I'm trying to make a decision, is like when I say the thing out loud, does it make me feel expansive or does it make me feel constrictive? And, you know, it's because there's like a gut instinct of like, this is something as like you were when you were at Esquire. This is just not hitting the place in my soul that it needs to fulfill.
Right.
So were you in New York, like Nasty Girl, Sophia Amoroso? Like, was that your era, you know, or is that further on?
I've actually seen her in person once.
I've got her book of her Girl Boss book over here.
You know what I love about her? I love that she left as CEO. She was like, you know what? This isn't hitting anymore. It's like, you go, girl.
I got other dreams. But if you haven't watched Girl Boss on, is it still on Netflix? I'm not sure.
I think it is.
Especially for vintage people, for people who are doing fashion and jewelry like Sammy is. It's such a fun watch.
Right.
So so you're at your place, you're doing it. How did you transition? I guess it was pretty seamless into you did Facebook groups into live selling.
Right. Yes. This is really powerful. So 2018, I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's create a Facebook group. Let's start a thrift tour. And I remember it took like 5 months and I was like number 11 on all of Airbnb experiences. I was selling out my tours. I was making $300 a tour. I was just like, this is heaven.
You had somebody come in and video you and do a feature on you. Am I right?
Yes. So what happened during that era is Airbnb put a lot of attention, on growing this part of their business. So they were, filming the experiences and just making sure that all of the content was quality so that when people found it, they would book it. So they've been a great lead magnet. Today, I actually book on various platforms and thanks to my website, and I'm forming like relationships with travel agents, but it's been a 5-year journey, right? So like just now I'm like starting to book off the platforms, but really just to, kind of wrap this up, I got the motivation to just be like, all right, I'm committed. Let's go. I got back into resale, started selling on Instagram, like doing Instagram story drops. And then what happened is that I have 2 friends who are internet marketers who do like $350 a year revenue. I mean, they're in it. And they told me, they said, you have a great skill set here. Why don't you just start a membership community and teach people? And I'm like, okay, I think I could do that. So I took my Thrift Babes group and I promoted, I'm not even joking, a $10 a month membership community, like just to get started. And it was
on the Facebook within the Facebook group. So it was a free group, and now you're charging $10 to be in the free group.
Yeah, it was like a extension. So I did 2 groups. So I basically said, let's move anyone who wants to learn about resale into group number 2, like resale marketing, business, and I had a lot to offer because I had done so much in my 20s. And, here I am making I think I had 100 people sign up. So I was making like $900 or something after fees, but like, that's a big deal. Right. And I'm like, cool. And then I said, oh, let's just start selling to each other in the group. I was like, let's. And then what happened is the pandemic. And I was like, I think I need to open this up to like everyone. I opened it up to everyone. I mean, the explosion was insane. So basically to actually list in the group, I ended up increasing prices. So what I did is I would like grandmother you in if you had joined at the very beginning. Cause I'm like, I appreciate your business. And then it became 15 and 20, 25. Today it's actually $30 to sell in the group. And then a sister community, they started doing closet clean out live sales. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I was like, maybe we should do that. We should just go live. And again, back to just technology, guys. Going live on Facebook only started in 2016, 2017. I remember the moment I got the live button. So this is still fairly new technology, right? And I invited some people, and I remember I had to beg people. I had to like beg people, like just try a live sale. And I think I charged like $30 or whatever. And then technology came along. And this technology actually connects to a business page on Facebook, and people can show a number. I don't have a number here. and then you comment sold and the number, and it actually like it creates a list of those claims so that you as the seller can go back and PayPal invoice those customers. So it's not automatic invoicing like whatnot, but it's a way to capture solds, right? And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And I mean, since 2020, I'd say April 2020, and I don't talk about this enough, and I'm actually thinking about creating more content in social media to help show people so that they feel like, oh, I should go do this. I should join Vintage Boss Babes. And now I have a sister group called Vintage Jewelry Addicts. But long story short, I have probably helped sell $500,000 with the Facebook groups. Like, cause I've run the numbers and I'm like I had one seller, she sold $4,000 in 2 hours. 4,000 because she told me. And I'm like, so
That
I mean,
is amazing. So she was just doing a live for 2 hours and she was selling her vintage. It's mostly vintage clothes, right? Or it's only vintage clothes?
So I started with vintage only and I was like purist, right? And then as time evolved, I'm like, you know what? Like quality secondhand, I don't really want fast fashion, but sometimes Shine hits. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes that stuff is good, but I'm still pretty much like, hey, like it's quality, modern, and vintage. Vintage still sells the most because people know it's rare and they will pay up for that. And then I started a sister group called Vintage Jewelry Addicts, which is vintage jewelry, but also modern jewelry, fine jewelry, upcycled jewelry, handmade jewelry. And, as I tell my sellers, I say, look, what people want to buy are one of a kind things. And why live selling works and what people forget, right? You live in Austin, I live in New York. I mean, I can go shopping anywhere. You have a lot of choices as well, but there are people that like they just don't have choices. They're
I mean, middle of the country,
Walmart,
stuck on a farm somewhere.
Targets. Yeah, yes, exactly. Or it's an hour drive, and the power of live selling creates a relationship. It creates a trust relationship. It creates friendships. I've seen it create healing, because people become friends and they're supposed to be friends. They're supposed to support each other. And it's just truly powerful. And, using Facebook is helpful because unlike other platforms, you can't really friend on other platforms. I mean, you kind of can, I guess, like Whatnot, you can follow each other. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure, but
it's not really created for
social.
Social.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel like with TikTok. I was like, I post on TikTok, but it doesn't have that same friend feel that Facebook and Instagram had, that community feeling. It's more just like random, like entertainment scrolling. Yeah. So are there men and women in your group?
So interesting. We've had a few male vintage sellers. I have many more for Vintage Jewelry Addicts. Men love selling jewelry. I know. I never knew. And when they first started to join,
jewelry addict, so like he just like really gets into it. So there's just something, maybe it's similar to gold coins,
yes,
or like money.
Yes, because I think what's great about jewelry, and here's why I launched the jewelry group, is because I noticed that jewelry sales were much higher because it's size free and it's collectible.
Yeah, that was my question. So you feel like if you're and that's why I sell furniture, is because I can make so much more money than selling, little tchotchkes. So do you feel like jewelry is like, if somebody was like, where is the most fastest way for making money, you would say the jewelry?
I would say the jewelry, you're still going to sell. Well, it depends on how you specialize in the jewelry. If you're specializing in 20s, 30s, 40s pieces, you don't have to sell many to make, say, $1,000, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're specializing in like the 70s, 80s, you have to sell a lot. But here's the thing about jewelry. You can go on eBay right now and you can buy a lot of it, like LOT, and you can spend, I don't know, $200 and get 400 pieces. And then you can, I don't know, make $1,500 on that, depending on how you price everything. I mean,
absolutely. I used to go on and buy like Sarah Covington,
Coventry,
vintage Avon, and I would buy, things, and I would sell it on eBay. It's one of my first hits. And I remember my first necklace, it was this beautiful vintage necklace, like $100 in like an hour. And I was like, this is so awesome. And then I did the stupid thing and went off and bought a whole bunch of stuff from China and tried to sell it, and it did not. No, you cannot. This whole bulk resale wholesale, like it is not.
I'm glad you tried. Though, because you should try. Yeah, you should always try, because who knows? Like I see people that sell paparazzi jewelry, like nobody's business. Now, I don't allow that in the group, but if it works for you, if that's the type of audience. But what I've created, what I continue to try to create, is an environment of like interest, mutual interests. There's stuff that happens in the groups that's beyond buy sell. So there'll be like a post about the history, or like a question, or people post like, can you tell me how old this is? This is just a chapstick, guys, but it creates, it creates a great space for people to get to know each other. And then the returning customers is why sellers continue to sell in my groups, because they know that there are people that love to buy and buy and buy and buy. And of course, there's a lot of conversation, the economy and blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you, there are still a lot of people.
When you
work
something,
disposable
you will
income.
find a way to buy. And there's something about live auctions that is like, if I don't get it, it's
gone.
FOMO. If I don't get it right now, I'm never going to find this exact piece again.
Exactly.
I think that's a great model. So when you pay the $30 for your whatever group you're in, where do the live sales take place? Do they take place on the open Facebook group that's not a $30 group, or is it within the $30 group?
Yeah, great question. So we have to use a business page to use the technology, which is what I pay for. And so people actually go live on a page that's promoted into the group. So Vintage Jewelry Addicts is actually a lower price point. It's $15 a month. I'm probably going to change Vintage Boss Babes to $15 a month. You're the first to hear it, because I've realized that that's like the sweet spot to get new members. And this is all, I don't know if you guys even care about this, but like Vintage Jewelry Addicts,
absolutely.
I started as a public group, and I realized that that's what I should have done with Vintage Boss Babes. It's a private group. So I'm hopefully in the next few months going to move Vintage Boss Babes to a public group, because they grow so much faster. I thought the private group was the right thing, because then no one could see what you were doing, but Facebook doesn't incentivize private groups. So there's some things that I'm changing, but the business page, what's great about it is that, that is it's a public facing link. So when you're done with your live sale, you can actually promote it anywhere you want, and people can, partake. You are paying me a flat fee. I'm not doing commission. So the Facebook Lives, there's no way for me to do commission. I know some people in my space that do commission, but that's just
sometimes there's a place where it's just too messy. It's not worth the effort and the drama.
Messy. It's too messy. But what did end up happening because of this growth is a software called District reached out to me. And this platform has some of the same investors as Whatnot. It's fairly new. And anyone who has a following can create a marketplace and cultivate that marketplace. And it's a live selling platform with auctions, with best offer, and get commission. And so I am also cultivating Vintage Jewelry Addicts on that platform, where I do make 8% commission. The platform makes 5% commission. So it's like a 13% commission situation. But
you're not having to pay that person that's on it, doesn't have to pay that monthly recurring fee.
Exactly.
It's just whenever you get on and sell.
Exactly.
And so explain to me, I actually am not on Whatnot. So please explain to the audience what is Whatnot.
Yeah, Whatnot is a viral sensation. Very proud of their marketing efforts. I shouldn't be proud, but I'm in awe of their marketing efforts. I would say they started hitting the scene around 2019. It's a live selling platform with a built-in marketplace for per user. So if Elaine was on Whatnot, you could go to her profile and you could shop what her buy it nows are, but there's no main landing page like Etsy or eBay where you can search. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay, but then Elaine will go live, and if you follow Elaine, if you like Elaine, you can join her live sale, and she'll bring items to stage. And she'll either do an auction.
Like a Depop live sale integration type of idea. Okay.
Ish. Yeah. I wish they had like one. Maybe I'm wrong. Actually, I should probably double check this. I don't think they have like a one-stop marketplace. You actually have to go to people's
honestly, it could have changed last week. I mean, technology just changes so quick. I mean, and I remember you were talking about 5 minutes to YouTube. I remember the 15-second story. Like if you had to say everything you wanted to say in 15 seconds, really, which was really great because it made me very good at getting to the point quick, which I think is so important in this day and age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But it's been a fascinating journey, as well as how do you want to use technology? So Elaine, I totally support that you're not on whatnot. I totally support people that aren't on any social media. And I think that the power of resale is that you have many options. I have returned to markets, so in person, and I made $800 last weekend, which, okay, maybe that's not a lot, but I was excited. I was like, hey, I did a
$800,
market.
I mean, for
So
one week, it sounds good to me.
I made $800. I didn't have to do any social media. The customers came to me. Okay, this is awesome. And I think the key to this business, I mean, first you should trust yourself, like you said. Like, do I feel excited, or do I feel constricted? And then kind of go from there and figure it out. Flea markets in New York never worked for me because I didn't have a car. They're very expensive here. People are more finicky here. It's interesting. Like you can like really bomb a market in New York. But now that I'm in Baltimore, I'm like, this is great. So, it just might depend where you are.
I love that point, because you
Mhm.
really do have to watch your own market. So if you're on Instagram
Yeah.
and you're watching someone do amazing selling vintage jewelry, but your market is, shabby chic country farmhouse, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you love mid-century modern or not. You really do have to think about where
Who are
you're
you selling to?
selling. If you're selling, especially in a local market. Now, if you're selling nationwide, you can do whatever you want. And I'm always promoting,
Yeah.
do what you love, obviously. But at the end of the day, some of us are just here to make money and, provide for our families. And so sometimes you have to allow non-vintage jewelry or non-vintage clothing into because there's just a market for it. People do want to buy secondhand, but they want the secondhand something super fancy.
Exactly. You have to know a little bit more about the audience to make a better educated decision if you have what that audience wants. But back to the live selling, I think the beautiful thing is that you begin to see what is selling. You begin to see who the top customers are. You begin to understand the demographic. So my communities are mostly 35 to 60. So that's really different than the Y2K. Obviously. Now,
Oh, yeah.
I love sourcing Y2K for the markets and pretending that I am 28 years old when I am 38. But, online, I can't sell that for like top dollar. There's just, yeah. So,
Yeah, well, because the Y2K market right now is still buying knockoffs from Shein. So it's like there is a place where you do have to look at what someone's willing to spend on a piece of jewelry, and a very unique piece of jewelry. And I definitely think it's probably that 35 plus crowd that's like, okay, I used to wear Forever 21 stuff, but now I'm looking for something that's going to last and be very unique and a talking piece.
Yep. People start to buy less when actually, no, they don't. People are interesting. What I will say is that they are interesting. You get to know the returning customer demographic with live selling. And you don't have to do it with Facebook. You can do this with Instagram as well if you have your own following. What's nice about my Facebook communities, and there's other people that are doing what I'm doing. I'm not the only one that has a buy sell trade. Well, there's no trading, but buy sell live sale platform. But you get to know what the market wants there. So you can source better versus you're making these blind decisions. And when I coach people, I always talk to them about that. I'm like, are you buying for yourself or are you buying for your customer? I do not buy for myself. I buy for my customer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, I don't wear Lululemon. I bought Lululemon pants yesterday for $20 because this exact style sells for $118. They're a size 10. And I know I can at least double them on live.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't care about Lululemon, but I know that other people do. And I just think once we start to put ourselves in the shoes of our customers, our home runs are much more frequent. Now, of course, I buy stuff that I don't sell all the time. And that's a whole other coaching strategy. I do a lot of buy sell trade. You can't do that everywhere in the country, although there are some stores you can actually like ship it to just to get your like money back. But, long story short, getting to know who you're selling to will help you to decrease inventory debt, which is the number one problem with this business, is that you have to buy to make money.
Absolutely.
Or consign. You can consign with people, which
consignment is a great way. So
yeah.
Talk about inventory. You're talking about inventory debt, which means you have a surplus of inventory. when someone goes into this, how much space or how much would you recommend them going, and how much space do you have to do this? Your full closet? What does that look like?
I know, right? It's probably the same with furniture. Well, it's even more furniture. Well, I will say living in New York City, it was really difficult in my Manhattan apartment. I was overflowing. When I moved to Brooklyn, I was able to secure a 3-bedroom. So I rented out one of the bedrooms. And then the 3rd bedroom was my resale room. So I had a whole room that was probably about the size of this, but a whole room. It was exciting that I could keep inventory. Now I'm in Baltimore and I have better financial options. So hopefully you guys are in the same boat where I've actually rented a space and I keep my inventory there also so that I can do my live selling there and I can make a mess. I can just make a mess and leave it. But I would say for the average person, and this is what I'm going to step into, a garage space, a basement space where there's less chance of water and things like that, because a lot of basements can flood. But, you do need probably a proper 10 by 10 space to really store inventory, because it's not like you're buying 10 pieces for live sales. Most live sales are showing 40 to 50 pieces.
And how long does that take? 40 to 50 pieces? Like
about an hour.
An hour. Okay.
Hour and 15. Yeah, I sell 1 hour and 2 hour spots. Now jewelry, I only sell 1 hour spots because it's a lot faster with jewelry. So back to space, the beauty of jewelry and why my vintage jewelry addicts community has grown so quickly. I launched it January 1st. It is almost to 15,000 members.
Wow. Yeah. I've actually thought about going, because I've got a bunch of vintage jewelry that I love and maybe some that I want to sell. And I've actually thought about, I wonder how jewelry would do if I started doing a little bit of jewelry. So
you would crush it. You would crush it. And you don't, all you need is a drawer. So back to storage. I'm like opening a drawer right now. You guys can't see it, but all you need is a drawer. So jewelry is interesting where if you're like, well, I want to do this resale thing, but like, I don't know about the clothing, jewelry.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of space. Yeah. Jewelry's a great, it can make a lot of money. Talk about a little bit, because I'm the same way. I went from picking up stuff and storing it in my living room and yelling at the kids to having a storage unit to making a studio.
Yeah. You take the steps. Yeah.
The chaos. Like, talk a little bit, run us through the chaos of being in a Manhattan apartment. Walk our user or listeners through that, because I think a lot of people are probably like, I'm going crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. What I will say is having been in this business and being a thrifter for a very long time is that I'm very selective now about what I buy for myself. And I will never have a capsule wardrobe. I'm too much of a maximalist, but I am not attached to my pieces. And it is because I have learned that there is always more. There's always more. And sometimes
if you regret it, you can go probably find it again on eBay or something like that.
Oh, I don't have regrets, because I'm like, I'll just replace it. It's like, I'll just find something else that's awesome. So having this belief in abundance helps you to release. But what I will say about the chaos, definite chaos. I didn't even mention, like, I've had multiple storage units because my Manhattan apartment was so small that I couldn't, keep everything. As I've aged, I'm like, let's do a less is more approach. So like, I have sold a lot of pieces that if I had kept today, I will admit I could probably sell them for a lot more. That's one of the
I think we all have that. Yeah.
Realities.
We sell stuff for like 150 and now I would have said like 950.
Yeah. I've sold stuff for like $15, that shouldn't have been, but it was just to release and just to get that flow of money started. I don't think that anyone needs to go through this life experience to be what's the word, resilient. But I have, literally been homeless, where like I've had to stay like at friends' homes because I've moved in with people that I broke up with. And then I was like in transition and my stuff was in storage and I had to spend money for that. And then I had to like let go because I was putting it in storage. And so it's definitely been a relationship with my stuff to decrease the chaos. I think that having a separate space is the best. But again, continuing to be very selective with what I put in there. And then back to the whole pricing situation. I think everyone should do what is best for them. But I don't hold on to things. If someone wants to buy it at a particular price, I don't say no and hold on to it to wait for a higher price.
Yes.
I don't. I am like, you know what? For example, eBay, right? I'm like, you went 75, I listed it for 150. Okay. As long as I'm making some money.
Right.
And it's just really because again, I see people do this and they get frustrated and they get upset. And I'm like, you're turning down money.
Yeah.
You're turning down money. And this is also a very saturated market. But again, here's the thing about pricing, guys. The price is what the customer wants to pay. If you want to wait for that other customer to come along, okay, fine, but like really the price is determined by the customer. So I would much rather be like, okay, so that's why I love markets, because negotiation is there. And I know I'm going to sell it. We just got to negotiate. I've been very open about it on social media for various reasons. I think that God or the universe made me have many challenges. This is my theory in my 20s and 30s because I don't know, I guess just to make me a stronger person. I didn't really have a hard childhood at all. I come from upper middle class, my public school education, but still my college education was paid for. I moved to New York without debt, but I've had a lot of financial challenges, living challenges. I mean, guys, I had bed bugs twice. No, 3 times, because the third time was from the Goodwill outlet. This is true.
Oh,
It was
no.
from the Goodwill outlet. I had a rat in my apartment once that we had to murder, but I kept learning, growing, moving on up, maybe losing sleep, maybe burning candles and crying my eyes out, but like continuing. And so I hope, I'm not quite sure if I'm very clear with this message, but I hope that, whatever you're going through, whether it be resale or relationships or whatever other life struggles, that you can take some solace in knowing that it is building on your soul. And I think if you stay focused on that, then it's always worth it, that there is purpose in your pain. And we're all supposed to go through pain in some way. Like you can't avoid it.
You can't avoid it. Yeah. Pain. There's
Yeah.
actually a book called I think it's called The Purpose of Pain. And is this doctor, and he talks about how when you don't have pain receptors, that's when, and because he studied leprosy, and you think, oh, you're leprosy, your just fingers fall off, your nose falls. Well, it's actually because you don't have the pain receptors to feel that the rat is gnawing on your fingers, or feel that the rat has gnawed off your nose. And specifically, he was in India, and he was an American. This little girl, she had no pain receptors, so she would pick up glass. She'd have glass like shoved in the bottom of her foot, and she wouldn't know, and her mother would have to pull. And it's like pain is there to guide you into safety. And it's hard to think that. And I was on a podcast yesterday being interviewed, and I was after the show, I was talking about how like I had just been crying my eyes out like in the shower. And it's deceiving on social media, because you see all the good parts of what you see us sitting here, we got our makeup on, or talking about our successes in business, but you don't see all the behind the scenes tears that I think we all have. And we go, oh, well, that person doesn't deal with what we deal with. And it's like, they may not deal with that, but they may deal with something else. They may have had the loss of a child, or they're dealing with a unfaithful spouse. You don't know what they're going on. They're not going to let that on. Behind closed doors. And they just keep picking themselves up and keep selling or keep doing what they're doing. And it's not a linear path. You have to just keep picking yourself off to get to the end of whatever it is this life is offering us. And I think that's just I think that's a powerful message, just to allow. And I was even thinking about, when I was crying, and I was praying about it later, and I was just like, you know what? Thank you so much, because now I remember why I do this in the first place. Because I tell people, because we're going through a financial transition, I tell people you can resell to make extra money. And I remember the days when I couldn't afford groceries or couldn't do this. And this current season has made me go, okay, I remember that, like I remember it. And so now I can speak from that even more powerfully in a different way. And so I think sometimes it's just also remembering that other people need us, because we need other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, okay, you do a live sale.
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I'm pushing the button.
Yeah.
Tell me about that emotion, that
Boop.
fear. Talk to that. Like, what is your tips to people that want to
That's
do
great.
live, but
Great
they are
question.
absolutely petrified?
Oh my gosh. And many people are, and that's totally normal. They're petrified of being on camera, but they're also petrified of like the technology. You know what? The technology is actually the least the least of your concerns. And that's because as the owner of these communities, I'm there to help you as well as my team. But what I really talk people through is that it's like they're talking to a friend. They don't have to feel like they have to be anything but themselves. I tend to be pretty lit up on camera. Some people, they're a little bit more long-winded. Some people, I guess, are just very like to the point because they've actually practiced. And what I just try to tell people is that you will find your people by being yourself, because
Absolutely.
live selling is about, again, back to just these customers who keep coming back, people that get to know you, know, like, trust, which is a very popular marketing term. So they know you. Okay, you're live. Okay, I know who you are. They start to like you because you're like cracking jokes, whatever. And then they trust you and then they buy. Right.
Yeah,
And
because there's
so
1,000
that's,
people they could be buying from, but they choose to buy you because of your
yeah.
story or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And it's also kind of like, so imagine you're like in a small town and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to the local butcher shop, because I don't want to go to the grocery store butcher. It's like the same thing. It's like these communities become little small towns. So
Yeah.
just be you, and like you'll find your town residents who want to come to your local business and support you. Now there are some, like, how do I say this? Best practices. You want good lighting. You want a attractive background. Like, this is probably not the best background for this podcast episode. Your background is much nicer. So it's very similar, where you want to have that really like aesthetically pleasing, non-busy background. You also want to make sure that you're not holding things over here. You're actually like, okay, here's the full item, and like, let's take a look at the details. Or if it's like a jewelry piece, this is actually my friend's necklace, you're like, okay, so here's, it's a great pendant, and actually let's take a look at this. Oh, I think this is a Sagittarius. Yes. Okay. Who's a Sagittarius in the audience? Stuff like that. And, also keep in mind that shipping best practices are very important, like shipping timely, having nice packaging, maybe writing thank you. I don't expect anyone to write like a long thank you card, but, just really being grateful to your customers will keep them coming back. Marketing is important. So what's beautiful about the groups is that you can market yourself in the groups. You can message your customers and say, hey, I'm going live tomorrow at 2 p.m. If you can't watch it live, shop the replay. So you can actually really shop the replays as well. And just like keeping in mind that like this is a business. Obviously, you're not just showing up like, oh, I'm here. Okay, let's find some things just sell. Like, you do have to prepare in advance, have measurements if it's clothing, or at least like a rough measurement. And that all will help for your success. And there's going to be better lives than others. I didn't have a great live sale last week. Honestly, I think it's because my inventory was okay. I'm meeting with a client on Monday who's giving me an entire designer collection, which is going to be on commission, which I love. So I know my next few live sales will be great because there's going to be some really great designer names. So also keep in mind that like even the best live sellers are going to have live sales if they're just not bringing the inventory. Like, it's not
Yeah.
you, it's the
Well, and
inventory.
and
So
inventory or time could be
mhm,
the height for vacations, and people are on the cruise in the Caribbean and they're not getting good internet, but they can shop the replay. So
right.
talk a little bit about, I know when I've gone live, that number up there, it says like one person has joined,
It's like
30 people have joined, and then it
psychologically,
goes down, and then all of a sudden you're
mhm.
talking to nobody. Like, talk about that. How do you get out
Yes,
of that headspace?
I love that. And I have experienced that myself. I mean, I've had 30 plus people consistently in live, and I've had 6. So this is probably a new skill for some people. But again, I just think of it as I am recording what is available so that then I can do my post promotion and I can tag people or I can send it. So if it's like a Instagram live and you actually post it to your feed, you can then send it to your customers, send it to your story. And I'm saying, hey, if you guys couldn't check out the live, no problem. You can check out the replay. And then you have a great recording. And that recording, it also helps. And this is like next level stuff that I talk about in my coaching, but you're showing items. You can take screenshots of those items and then use the screenshots to promote. I make sales that way because I'm like, people don't have time to watch the live. I'll take screenshots of the best items.
Yeah.
I'll just watch myself and screenshot and then post it.
Absolutely. I think also like exactly what you're saying, making sure that you are catering to all the different customer needs. Somebody might have the time. They're drinking a glass of wine, they're making dinner, and they put on your live and they're able to kind of like look to the side. Oh yeah, I like that. And then some people are like, go, 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 go. And they just need to look at the screenshots. And so making sure that just because you did the live sale, that doesn't mean it's over. That means that it's just getting started.
Yeah.
You know, you do the pre-promotion and then during and then afterwards.
You're just getting started. And so it's almost like recording like a YouTube episode. You're like, I'm just talking to myself, but like, you know, that people are going to tune in. It really helps you. Again, it's faith, and it's faith that also sometimes it's a right timing. Like you said, Elaine, it's right timing where all of a sudden, like all these people are available to watch your live sale. And maybe you have like the right thumbnail that actually does play a part. So again, being well lit, having like, this is too basic for a live sale. I always tell people like wear something fun because it pops. Start your live where it's like on you and you're smiling. Don't start your live and walk away because people will be like, where is the seller?
I'm looking at a door. I don't know. Yeah.
Where is the seller? And, you know, and also maybe even like trying new things. What has been very successful in the Facebook groups that I think you can apply anywhere are freebies. So if you tune in the first 10 minutes, freebies, right? And maybe the freebies have to be like, you have to buy something. You know, people also do trivia, which I've never done. And I'm like thinking about it. And I think trivia is so fun so that people are commenting and there's conversation and it's, you know, it's like, it's a feel good experience. So I don't watch a lot of other people's lives outside of my group, but I would say that maybe studying other people's lives can also help you just to be better about your on-camera presentation. But don't study, what's that phrase? Study long, study wrong. Just get started. Yeah. And remember that it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to mess up. I have messed up many times on a live sale where I'm just like, like the camera fell. Oh man. Okay, we're back. Like, you know, it's fine. It's fine. You don't have to be a famous person.
And I think people are okay with it not being polished. They want you to be real. If the camera falls, that makes them feel normal. Yeah. And it actually endears them, I think, to you. Like, oh, she's vulnerable. She made a mistake. You know, kind of Brene Brown, like the power of vulnerability. And I definitely think there's like a cadence to studying other people. I loved Midmon Marion. She does all the glass lives, and she is she's got like a certain characteristic and her setup is wonderful. And I was just like, man, she is really good. Like all of a sudden this, like she starting at, you know, $18 and all of a sudden it's $130. And I'm like, I don't know how she got there, but it's, you know, she's great. A fun person to study, but then start and don't study anybody while you're in your starting phase, because you're going to be comparing your beginning to somebody else's middle and you're going to stop. And then maybe when you get a little bit further down, go, okay, let me go watch somebody else and just to study, but not to compare. And so you've got to find that balance between comparison and growing. So talk about you said you do coaching. Talk about that. And if somebody's listening and is like, I want to do this, but I don't want to start alone. I need some hand holding.
Yeah.
What do you offer?
I love that. I offer lifestyle coaching. I offer online marketing coaching. I offer clothing resale coaching. I can do a little bit of jewelry resale, but I actually have a partner in crime for that. So she's my top seller. She's the one who sold $4,000 in 2 hours. She likes to call herself semi-retired, which is hilarious because she can't stop selling. Like she just loves it so much, but like financially she doesn't need it. She's 55 but she just loves it. Yeah. And she's wonderful and she just has a laser eye. And what we also both offer is, you know, if you want to get a coaching session with us and then book a live sale, we will watch that live sale and actually give you feedback after, so that you get immediate feedback on what to change next time, or, reminders of what to do next. So yeah, there is a lot of hand holding that we offer. I like to do I like to do coaching promotion once a quarter, but I do always take it like a la carte. So if anyone's interested, they can message me. We sell single sessions, multiple sessions, etc. It's not guaranteed, right? Like no one can actually legally say you're gonna make your money back, but you do, if you follow what we say, you have an average to high chance that you will make your money back on the coaching with your first live sale, because we charge $100 to $150 per session for coaching. So it's not like you're paying $500, and you're like, oh my God, like, is this worth it? I want you to gain insights into a revenue stream that you can tap into for the rest of your life, which is why I do like the coaching that I offer. There's a lot of coaching out there. There's life coaching, there's health coaching, there's blah, 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 blah. But I think what's so great about resale coaching, which is what Elaine offers as well, so please book with her, is that you're actually literally learning how to make money versus like the mindset of it. You're just like, versus like the mindset of it. You're just like,
I mean, and very specifically make money in the area you need to make money in. Like I can't teach you how to sell, being a physical trainer. Like I wouldn't know that market. And so I love that you offer something that's very specific and tailored to that.
Yeah, it's not this like gray zone, right? Where it's like, oh, so how to attract money. I'm like, okay, I love that stuff, but like I need something tangible. And so that's what you and I offer, is very, very tangible advice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. It's like just name it and claim it, or, the law of attraction, where you're like, if you just, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that might bite somebody in the ass if they believe it and then they don't do the work to get it. You have to actually do the work, and you have to know the ins and outs of doing the work. So you talked about, and I love your model because you have this like mentor-mentee model where you're like mentoring people, but it sounds like you have a community, like you said, you signed up for the conglomerate that you were talking about earlier, of people that you now are peer to, and then people that are, above you that are helping you launch you. Kind of talk about that, the being, the upper end where people are breathing into you. What does that look like?
Right. Well, I think what's so beautiful about the business that I've created is that there are people that are participating that have been in the business for 25 years, that have expertise and insights into so many areas of resale that I don't, and that can contribute that wisdom, whether it's just because they're there and they become friends with people, or because, we tag team and create some sort of class or course or training. And, no one really can know everything about everything. Like it's just not possible. But where my skill set is the software behind the scenes, and the landing pages, and the emails, and my calendar is insane. I'm now in the process of like outsourcing a lot more. So I'm working on building a team. So it's been really great to partner with Odelia, who's my partner coach for jewelry. I don't know who's going to come down the pipeline in the future. I think you and I should work together. I've worked with, blanking on their names, Melissa and Rob of Flea Market Flipper, and I've helped promote their content. And I think that that's the beautiful thing also, again, about resale, is that resale is such a big word, and we're all involved in it in like a different angle. And so we can come together and continue to support each other, and to support the people that follow us by giving them access to the wisdom of other experts, and not saying like, oh, I can't promote them because they're going to take away business. It's like, what's that about? Like, no, because
my dad always told me about, if a McDonald's is on one corner, that's great, and they get all the business. But if a McDonald's and then a Burger King are on opposite corners, now everyone in the city goes, oh, that's the burger corner. And so both of them actually get more business. So
that's great.
All tides rise, make all ships rise, or whatever the saying is.
Yes.
And I think it is really important to remember that it's better to be in community. And this is no one's in it for the drama. We all just want to make money. And so we can support
Yeah.
each other. I think that's a really
Period. We all want to make money. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that
we
is
all
the
just want to
point.
make money at the end of the day.
That's the exchange. I mean, like that's the highest exchange, because like what is money? It just is a paper currency that represents exchange that we can use for other exchanges. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to gain by promoting others, and it helps to cultivate trust. I'm talking from the angle of like a quote unquote influencer coach, but I really think it's a beautiful thing to show your audience that it's kind of like, I don't know how to express it. It's not me or the highway, or whatever that phrase is. It's like, I just want you to get better. And then I think that when you do start to offer your own coaching and your own courses, people are like, yeah, I want to buy from you, because you're not putting yourself on a pedestal. And I think that is one of the problems with like coaching, especially when people are coaching about like the exact same thing, is that they don't feel like they can like for example, if they're coaching about building websites, they don't think they can promote someone else who's coaching about websites, because it takes away from their business. I mean, this is why a lot of coaches actually do like affiliate marketing, so that you actually gain some money by selling someone else's content.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, when you know that you're ready to really commit, and that is the key, whoever you hire will be really excited to work with you because you're ready to commit. And that's really all it takes. So
Yeah.
I have spent a lot of money on myself, right? And it has helped immensely. But I was ready to commit.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
commit to that particular coach in that particular season, and not getting too many coaches, too many cooks in the kitchen, for sure, in your own brain, because that's going to muddle up the waters for sure. So, I mean, I like literally have 1,000 different other questions I could ask you. I am so intrigued. But if you were to leave the listeners with one tip or story, I would love to hear that before we end up here.
I'll leave them with a story. Okay, this is a great tip, because if you guys find one, you will thank me later. So, flashback 2 years ago, and we were just coming out of the pandemic, like really actually coming out of it. So this is April 2022, and my dear friend, shout out to Nuka, is like, there's this church sale on 76th Street. So guys, this is Upper East Side, right? It's like 76 in Madison. And she's like, blah, 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 went there last year or 2 years ago. And it was incredible. I think it had been 2 years ago. So basically this church sale, it was 2 years of donations because of the pandemic. She's like, we should go. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. I actually invited a friend, Carla, who's like a full-time reseller, does all the shows, like the top clothing shows. So we show up, there's a line. It's $5 entry. We're like, okay, sure. We walk in. Holy Izzy Miyake, Vivian Westwood, Pucci, Vintage. I mean, this whole church was filled. It was insane. So I mean, I find some great finds, but I also find this Abercrombie and Fitch jacket. And I'm like, oh, this is a cool vintage 60s, 70s Abercrombie and Fitch jacket. How cool, you know? I don't find it in the wild a lot, like in terms of vintage. So I get home and I make my little social media shout out. Here's all the stuff I got at the church sale. And this older man DMs me and is like, you know, you got a Hunter S. Thompson jacket. And I'm like, what? So Hunter S. Thompson was a very famous author of the 60s, 70s, like beatnik era. He wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which Johnny Depp portrayed him in the film adaptation of like 2004 or something. So Hunter S. Thompson is very famous for this Abercrombie and Fitch jacket that he wore all the time. And it's multicolored stripes. And he's actually on the cover of like a magazine wearing it. And Johnny Depp's character wore it, not obviously, but like he wore it because like he just wore this Abercrombie Fitch jacket. So I do research. This jacket has sold for up to $5,000. I bought it for 15.
Oh my goodness.
I bought it for 15. Guys, I was going to sell that for like 100. I was like, cool. I ended up selling it on eBay for a lot of money. It wasn't 5,000, but I ended up selling it on eBay to a really awesome guy who was a huge Hunter S. Thompson fan, who lived in North Carolina and was so grateful to me These jackets are very rare. Like if you go on eBay right now, like there's a lot of reproductions, and the reproductions will sell for like 700.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Google Hunter S. Thompson jacket and you
Yeah.
guys will know what
I
to
will
look
definitely
for.
be doing, but, and you hit a great point. He was grateful. And I think that the
Yeah.
mindset of a reseller should be like, the person who's going to purchase this furniture, this vintage item, whatever it is
Yeah.
so thankful, because they want something in their house, in their home, or on their body that represents something they believe in or something they love. And,
Right.
you know, getting out of that mentality, that mindset that's like, I'm imposing by taking their money and giving them this vintage item. No, they
Right.
want it. They're so excited to buy from you.
It's a great actual like mental shift. And when you go live, it's the same thing. People want my stuff. I
They
love
want
my
to see you.
stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They want to
Mm-hmm.
see people want to see you succeed. No one is actually, I mean, so there's a couple
That's
people
true.
probably that want you to see you fall on your face, like an old ex-boyfriend or something like that. But most people really want you to succeed. So going live and getting the courage to do that, I think,
Yeah.
is just remembering that, like, get on there and make a fool of yourself, or don't, or whatever, and just have fun with it. Tell us again where we can find you on
Yes.
Instagram, on social media, all your website data, just so
Yes.
that we can find you and give you a follow.
Absolutely. And we have to talk later because I didn't know you had a website. So we need to do link exchanges for
Yeah.
SEO, for SEO purposes. So if you guys log on to vintagebossbabes.com, it's like a one-stop place. It has a ton of information about how to work with me, how to join the Facebook communities, how to join my district Vintage Jewelry Addicts live sale community. My Instagram account, you can always DM me at Vintage Boss Babes. I do a little bit of TikTok, but I wouldn't follow me there. But you can, I mean, if you want, you can find me at Vintage Boss Babes. And you can always email me, vintagebossbabes at
And
gmail.com.
get on your email
Mm-hmm.
list. I get an email every week, just telling
Yeah.
me, hey, I'm going live, or here's what was going on, or whenever she does a collaboration with another vintage
I sell a lot of
reseller,
products.
definitely
Yeah.
get
Email.
that email
Mm-hmm.
in your inbox for sure. Well, thank
Thank
you
you,
so much, Sammy,
Elaine.
for joining us. It was such a pleasure. And I hope so much that you listeners have gotten everything out of this episode that is going to just breathe into your life and to give you courage to get on that live
Mm-hmm.
sale and just start selling. And whether it just be
Mm-hmm.
starting like Sammy did, just doing an Instagram story sale, and then eventually, you know, launching out into a Facebook Live, or, you know, for me, I use StreamYard. StreamYard will lives things to all the different social media platforms all at the same time. If you're wanting to do that, there's technology out there that can totally help you, but just do it and just get on there and have a lot of fun. And thank you so much for joining, and join us next week as we continue our vintage reselling journey.